hands. Everyone wants to stand. I roll in my jack. Fast like the wind, everybody's on the board. Roll to the streets, I'm the man with the plan. Got the world in my hands, every woman wants to stand. I roll in my jag, fast like the wind. Every mission I take, you know I'm gonna win. Ladies on my left, danger on the right, but it's love and respect that I'm bringing to the...
Support the truth. Keep Jay Bahari, podcast, and Jay Cat, adventures alive. In a world drowning in misinformation, corruption, and media spin, there are few voices willing to stand against the tide. The Jay Bahari podcast and Jay Cat Adventures are not just entertainment, they are a wake-up call. This is why your support matters. We tell the hard-hitting fictional stories that shine a light on real-world corruption, greed, and power plays. We empower people with knowledge and action, helping them see through the lies. The truth needs a voice, and that voice needs you. Your donation helps us. Keep the podcast independent and fearless. No corporate sponsors, no strings attached. Expand J-Cat Adventures, bringing more thrilling stories packed with real-world parallels. Build a community of thinkers, fighters, and truth seekers who refuse to be manipulated. This isn't just a podcast, this is a movement. If you believe in fighting back, exposing the truth, and keeping power in check, then join us. Donate today at jcatadventures.com and keep the mission alive. The world won't wake up on its own. Let's make some noise.
J-Cat, the invisible chain that binds us all. Part 1. The air smelled of oil and desperation. The underground bunker J-Cat had found himself in was lined with old computer monitors, their cracked screens flickering with market graphs, economic reports, and breaking news feeds. Across from him sat a group of ordinary people, workers, students, small business owners, faces tense with confusion and worry. The financial system was crumbling, and everyone wanted answers. J-Cat leaned back in his chair, flipping a gold coin between his fingers. "Let me guess," he said. "You're wondering why the stock market crashing even matters to you when you don't own a single share?" A young mechanic named Reggie scoffed. "Man, I don't even have a savings account. Why should I care what happens to a bunch of rich guys trading stocks?" J-Cat smirked. "That's exactly what they want you to think." He flicked the coin across the table, letting it spin. "But the truth? The economy isn't a game played by the rich. It's a chain that connects all of us. And right now, that chain is cracking." He pointed at the flickering screens. "When the stock market tanks, who loses first? The billionaires? Nah. They already moved their money, bet against the fall, and came out richer." He paused, letting it sink in. "It's the workers, the pensioners, the business owners who get hit first. Factories close, retirement funds shrink, prices go up, and suddenly, your groceries cost double, and your landlord is raising the rent." A woman named Lisa, a school teacher, frowned. "But I don't have stocks. I just teach kids. How does this affect me?" J-Cat nodded. "All right, let's break it down. When markets fall, businesses panic. They cut costs. That means teachers like you get lower wages, fewer benefits, maybe even layoffs. Your school's funding gets slashed. And when parents lose jobs, more hungry kids show up in your classroom. The cycle keeps going." He tapped the screen showing news reports of price hikes. Then inflation hits. Gas, food, electricity, everything costs more. But your paycheck? Stays the same or even shrinks. Reggie crossed his arms. "Okay, so we're all screwed. What's new?" J-Cat grinned, a dangerous glint in his eye. "Only if we play by their rules." He stood up, pacing the room. "You ever wonder why they keep us fighting each other? Left versus right. Poor versus middle class. Black versus white. They pump fear into the media, sell outrage like it's entertainment, because as long as we're too busy hating each other, we don't see the real enemy." Lisa's eyes widened. "You mean the ones at the top?" J-Cat nodded. "Bingo. The ultra-rich and the corrupt politicians they own. They rig the game, rewrite the rules, and when the system fails, they make you pay the price while they cash in on the chaos." The room fell silent. Finally, an older man, Mr. Rodriguez, spoke. "So what do we do?" J-Cat looked each of them in the eye. "We wake up. We stop letting them divide us. We fight smart, we build communities that take care of each other, and we demand better. The only way to win is together." He picked up the coin, flipping it one last time before catching it midair. Because if we don't, then we've already lost. The room erupted into quiet murmurs, a spark of understanding passing between them. The world was changing. But this time, they weren't going to sit back and let it happen. This time, they were ready.
Want to dive deeper? Grab an ebook on Etsy or a paperback on Amazon. You can also reach Jay Bahari by clicking on chat line for instant video call, instant audio call, and instant text chat, or by appointment. If you're hooked on JCat Adventures, show your support today.
Part 2. JCat, the chain that binds us all, the government's hand in the game. We've talked about how the stock market crashing doesn't just hurt investors, it hurts everyone. But now let's talk about the other player in this rigged game. The government. Lisa, the school teacher, frowned. I thought the government was supposed to protect people from this kind of thing. JCat chuckled, but there was no humor in it. That's the illusion they sell you. But in reality, the government isn't a referee. It's a business. And like any business, it serves the ones who fund it. He pointed at the flickering screen showing Wall Street executives shaking hands with politicians. Follow the money. Who do you think funds political campaigns? Who pays for lobbyists to wine and dine your so-called leaders? It's the same billionaires and corporations that profit off your struggle. Reggie, the mechanic, shifted in his seat. So the government is just a puppet? JCat nodded. In many ways, yes. They could regulate the market, stop corruption, hold bankers accountable, but they don't. Instead, they bail out the billionaires while leaving you to drown. They print money, flooding the system, making your paycheck worth less while telling you the economy is fine. Lisa crossed her arms. But isn't that what taxes are for? To fund schools, roads, hospitals? JCat smirked. In a fair system, yeah. But let me ask you this, how much of your tax money goes to billion-dollar corporations and subsidies, while your classroom gets budget cuts? How many times have politicians promised to fix things, only to give banks another bailout instead? Mr. Rodriguez, the older man, sighed. So they don't work for us at all. JCat leaned forward, his voice low and steady. Not unless we force them to. The room was silent, the weight of the truth sinking in. Listen, he continued. The government, the corporations, the media, they all work together to keep people distracted. They keep you angry at each other instead of at them. Why? Because as long as we're divided, we're easy to control. Reggie clenched his fists. Then what the hell do we do? Vote? Protest? They ignore us anyway. JCat smiled, but this time, it was the smile of a man who had seen too much and was ready for war. We start by waking up. By calling out the lies. By organizing, not just online, but in our communities. By demanding better, and not just at election time, but every damn day. He tapped the table. We stop buying into their game. We stop letting them pit us against each other while they get rich off our suffering. We remind them that we hold the real power. Lisa exhaled, the fire in her eyes now burning. And if they don't listen? JCat's smirk returned. Then we make them. The room filled with nods of agreement. The world was changing. But this time, they wouldn't let it happen to them. This time, they were ready to fight back. Part 3. JCat, the game is rigged. JCat leaned back in his chair, swirling a glass of whiskey as he stared at the holographic stock market ticker floating above his desk. Green and red numbers danced across the screen, but to him, they weren't just numbers. They were fingerprints. Trails of corruption. Evidence of how the world was played like a rigged casino, where only the house ever won. Zara, his sharp-minded field partner, crossed her arms. You called this meeting, Cat. What are we looking at? Eli, their tech genius, tapped his tablet, pulling up a file labeled Politicians and Profits, Blacklisted Transactions. You won't believe this, he muttered. They're not just bending the rules. They are the rules. JCat smirked, tossing his whiskey back. Let me break it down for you. 1. Insider trading, the legal kind. JCat flicked his wrist, and a new file popped up, showing stock transactions from a certain senator. See this guy? 2 days before a pandemic lockdown was announced, he dumped millions in airline stocks and invested in a company making vaccines. He tapped the screen. Boom. The market crashes, airlines sink, and his vaccine stock skyrockets. The public panics while he gets richer. Zara shook her head. And no one arrests them? They write the laws, JCat said. And conveniently, those laws don't apply to them. 2. The blind trust illusion. Eli scrolled through more files. They always claim they don't manage their own investments. Oh, it's in a blind trust, but guess who manages those trusts? Their best friends, their spouses, people they secretly control. J-Cat grinned. It's like playing poker where you get to see all the cards but still pretend it's a fair game. 3. Creating policies that benefit their investments. Another screen lit up. A senator advocating for deregulating banks? He owns stock in 3 of the largest ones. A congresswoman blocking energy reform? She had millions tied up in oil. The trick is simple, J-Cat said. Own the stock. Make the policy. Get paid. 4. Moving the market with words. Zara's eyes widened. Wait, you mean when politicians make big announcements, they're just manipulating stocks? J-Cat chuckled. You ever wonder why certain politicians make very specific comments about companies or industries? When they say, we are cracking down on tech monopolies, tech stocks drop. But their buddies, who got the tip early, made money by shorting those stocks. Wait, Eli frowned. So they make the market react, then profit off the reaction? Exactly, J-Cat said. It's a rigged bet. They already know the outcome. 5. Government contracts and kickbacks. J-Cat pulled up an article, Defense Department awards $10 billion contract to X Tech Solutions. See this? A small-time defense company just landed a multi-billion-dollar contract. Guess who's on their board of directors? Zara checked the file. The senator who pushed for more military funding. J-Cat nodded. These contracts aren't awarded based on merit. They're paydays for politicians and their allies. 6. Bailouts and corporate welfare. Eli scrolled down. And this? The same banks that wrecked the economy got bailed out with taxpayer money. Classic move, J-Cat said. They privatize profits and socialize losses. When times are good, the rich keep the money. When they screw up, the people pay the bill. 7. Delaying or blocking investigations. Zara frowned. So when they get caught? J-Cat smirked. They stall. Drag out investigations. Call in favors. Make the laws confusing on purpose. He pulled up a headline, Congress takes no action on stock trading ban for lawmakers. See? They pretend to investigate themselves. Nothing ever happens. 8. The revolving door. J-Cat snapped his fingers, bringing up another file. Last trick? They retire into high-paying jobs at the same companies they once regulated. Zara scanned the list. A senator who fought against taxing Wall Street now works for a hedge fund. A former FDA official just took a job at a pharmaceutical giant. Corruption's got a pension plan, J-Cat said. They make laws that help corporations, then get a fat paycheck from those corporations when they leave office. J-Cat turned to his team. This isn't about left or right. It's about power and control. They keep the public distracted, fighting over nonsense, while they rewrite the rules for themselves. Zara exhaled. So what do we do? J-Cat grinned. We expose it. Eli cracked his knuckles. I'll dig deeper. Zara smirked. I'll get us access to some secure servers. J-Cat leaned back, watching the stock ticker. The game was rigged. But he wasn't playing by their rules anymore.
Want to dive deeper? Grab an ebook on Etsy or a paperback on Amazon. You can also reach Jay Bahari by clicking on chat line for instant video call, instant audio call, and instant text chat, or by appointment. If you're hooked on J-Cat Adventures, show your support today.
Part 4. J-Cat, the best game in town. J-Cat leaned against the bar of an underground lounge, a dimly lit place where the air smelled of old leather, expensive whiskey, and whispered secrets. He swirled his drink, watching the stock ticker flicker on the TV above the bar. The world outside was in chaos, markets tumbling, politicians making speeches, news anchors spinning the same tired narratives. Across from him sat Zara, his trusted field agent, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Next to her, Eli scrolled through data on his tablet, shaking his head. They say politics is the best game in town, J-Cat mused, taking a slow sip of his whiskey. That's because it's the only game where the players always win. And the audience always loses. Zara leaned forward. Break it down for me, Cat. What's the real play here? J-Cat smirked. Alright, let's talk about the game. The players and the rules. J-Cat tapped his glass, setting it down with a sharp clink. Politics is like a casino. The powerful set the odds, control the table, and always get a cut, no matter who wins or loses. Eli glanced up from his screen. But regular people still vote. Doesn't that mean they have a say? J-Cat chuckled. Oh, sure. Every few years, they let people believe they're picking a side, like they're choosing a team in some big game. But here's the trick, both teams belong to the same league. And guess who owns the league? Zara frowned. The ultra-rich. The lobbyists. The ones pulling the strings behind the scenes. J-Cat nodded. Exactly. The people think they're voting for change, but the game is rigged. No matter which way they vote, the same handful of elites keep getting richer, keep making the laws, and keep ensuring that no real power shifts hands. Eli sighed. So it's all just theater? J-Cat leaned in. Oh, it's better than theater. It's $1 billion production. You've got the illusion of choice, the carefully scripted conflicts, the staged outrage. The politicians pretend to fight on camera, but behind closed doors? They're laughing together at the same private clubs, signing deals that ensure their futures while leaving the people in the dark. J-Cat pointed at the stock ticker again. See that? Every time a crisis hits, pandemic, war, economic crash, the politicians and their donors already know what's coming. They bet against the system while the rest of the world struggles to keep up. Zara's eyes narrowed. So what are we supposed to do? Just accept it? J-Cat shook his head. No. You don't play a rigged game, you change the rules. Eli glanced up. And how do we do that? J-Cat smirked. We wake people up. We show them the illusion for what it is. Because once enough people stop believing in the game, the house of cards collapses. Zara exhaled, nodding. Then let's get to work. J-Cat raised his glass. Game on. Part 5. J-Cat, staying alert in a rigged game. J-Cat stood on the rooftop of a high-rise, looking down at the city below. Neon lights flickered against the glass, and the hum of the streets carried the restless energy of a world too distracted to see the game being played around them. He tapped his earpiece. Zara was on the other end, waiting for his update. People keep asking how they can fight back, he said, watching as news headlines scrolled across a giant digital billboard below. How they can stay ahead in a system designed to keep them blind, divided, and distracted. Zara's voice crackled through the comm. And what do you tell them? J-Cat smirked, slipping a small drive into his pocket. I tell them the truth, the only way to win is to stay awake. Rule number 1, question everything. J-Cat paced the rooftop. The first rule? Never take things at face value. If the media is pushing a story too hard, ask yourself why. Who benefits? Who profits? Every crisis, every scandal, every breaking news headline, there's always someone pulling the strings. Zara sighed. So we can't trust anything? Trust, but verify, J-Cat corrected. Find multiple sources. Follow the money. Watch what they do, not what they say. A politician promising change while investing in the industries they claim to fight? That's not a mistake, it's the playbook. Rule number 2, watch the money, not the words. J-Cat pulled out his phone, scanning financial reports in real time. Most people think politics is about votes. It's not, it's about power, and power moves through money. When you see lawmakers passing laws, look at who's profiting from them. When you see a major event shake the market, see who had their bets placed ahead of time. Zara's voice was sharp. Like the ones who dumped stocks before the last crash? Exactly, J-Cat said. They knew before the public did. Just like they always do. Rule number 3, keep your digital footprint small. Eli chimed in through the comms. This one's important, Zara. The more they know about you, the easier you are to control. J-Cat nodded. Every search, every purchase, every opinion you post online, it's all tracked. It's not about security, it's about predictability. They use that data to shape the news you see, the products you buy, the way you vote. The less predictable you are, the harder you are to manipulate. So what, go off the grid? Zara asked. J-Cat chuckled. Not necessarily. Just be smart. Use encrypted communication. Limit social media. And never, ever put all your trust in one platform. Rule number 4, build real communities. J-Cat turned his gaze toward the streets below, where people moved through their daily routines, unaware of how the game was being played above them. The biggest weapon they use against us is division. Left versus right. Rich versus poor. They keep us fighting each other so we never fight them. Zara's voice was firm. So what's the move? We build, J-Cat said simply. We connect with real people. We educate each other. We support businesses that actually care about people, not just profits. When we stop depending on the same corrupt institutions, their power shrinks. Rule number 5, never underestimate your own power. J-Cat smirked. They want you to think you're powerless, that nothing you do matters, that the system is too big to fight. But history proves otherwise. Every empire falls. Every corrupt system eventually crumbles under its own weight. The only question is whether we're ready when it does. Zara exhaled. And if we are? J-Cat adjusted his cufflinks. Then we don't just survive the game. We change it. The comms went silent for a moment, then Zara's voice came through, steady and determined. Game on.
I'm doing right. Doing it right. Got my eyes on the prize, but my heart's in the beat. J-Cat's on the mic, bringing heat to
Disclaimer.
the street.
The Adventures of J-Cat Adventures is a work of fiction. The characters, events, and settings depicted in this series are the products of the author's imagination and are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. This series contains mature themes, including but not limited to romantic and erotic content, that may not be suitable for all audiences. Reader discretion is advised. The depictions of relationships, encounters, and situations are intended for entertainment purposes only and do not reflect real-life practices or endorse any specific behaviors. The portrayal of characters, including their actions and interactions, is intended to be a dramatic and fictional narrative. The series is not intended to promote or condone any form of violence, exploitation, or abuse. The character of J-Cat Adventures, while depicted as a hero in fictional scenarios, is a creation meant to entertain and should not be considered a role model for real-life behavior. Readers are reminded that this is a work of fiction and should enjoy it as such. Any interpretations or applications of the content within real-world contexts are the responsibility of the reader. The author and publishers disclaim any liability for actions taken by readers based on fictional portrayals and scenarios in the series. The Adventures of J-Cat's creator Jay Bahari has harnessed the power of artificial intelligence to enhance the storytelling process. With the help of AI input, Bahari has been able to explore new dimensions of creativity, pushing the boundaries of conventional storytelling to deliver an experience that is both innovative and compelling. Together, Jay Bahari and AI have crafted a series that not only entertains but also captivates the imagination, inviting readers into a world where seduction and suspense intertwine in the most alluring ways. This collaboration stands as a testament to the endless possibilities that arise when human creativity meets cutting-edge technology, forging a path to stories that are as mesmerizing as they are unforgettable.
J-Cat's on the mic, bringing heat to the street. When it comes to the ladies, I'm smooth like silk, but don't get it twisted, I'm the man with the milk. For every tear that falls, I'm the hand to hold. In this world of chaos, I'm the story untold. With every breath I take, every move I make, I'm writing my name and the history is fake. I'm the cat with the 9 lives playing the game. A heart full of fire, can't be tamed. In the shadows I roll, but I shine so bright. With every step I take, I'm doing it right. Doing it right. Harry is so, so kind. In the realm of love, the connections bind. AI by your side, a symphony unfurls, spreading love across the digital world. Jay Bahari in the cyber sea, a love captain set in the spirit's free. With AI whispers like a gentle dove, he's on a quest to spread love. In the language of compassion, he decodes old school soul in a digital age. Jay Bahari's love breaking out of rage. Soul mission breaking down the wall. 60 years deep, but his spirit is young. Every heart is strong. From the binary beats to the pixelated sky, soaring high, he's on a quest to spread love.
here's to Jay Bahari, a love pioneer, spreading love message live. It's on a quest to spread love, soaring high. So here's to Jay Bahari, a love pioneer, spreading love messages loud and clear. In the